Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Essays on the Gita, with our beloved Ranga. We are in the chapter, Man and the Battle of Life. It is page 54 in the latest edition, beginning with the sentence, "But there comes also a stage."
In the previous para, he has discussed the three modes of nature, sattva, rajas, tamas. And that's very relevant because Arjuna's first reaction is in the ignorance. He is using his mind, life and body. He is identified with them and he is affected by what he sees. But Sri Krishna is telling him not to be affected by what he sees, and that is possible only when you rise to a higher level in the self, and then your consciousness is actually released from the body, mind, life, and there is a dislocation between your consciousness and the body, mind, life. Therefore, the impressions of the impacts of the world on your body, mind, life do not affect the consciousness at all. They affect the body, mind, life, but not you. You are up, watching calmly, quietly, and that's what Shakespeare is telling him to do. So, at which level are you? Arjuna is at the lower level. He has to get rid of his tamasic quality, rajasic quality, and sattvic quality, and rise and become what the Gita calls trigunatita, above the three gunas, above the three modes of nature. So that's what he's discussed. So now we will read
But he's also using his morality.
Yeah, morality is a mind-constructed set of rules which are not absolutely valid for all the levels, but they are certainly valid for the man who is in the ignorance. He is certainly, when he is identified with the body, mind, life, what we like to call level 1 in the ignorance, you are identified with your body, mind, life, you see the many forms in the physical world and consider them to be real, then you are in the ignorance, you are in level 1. But it is possible for the consciousness to rise out of your body, mind, life. You lose your identification with body, mind, life. Your consciousness realizes that you are a part of the eternal and you have always existed and you will always exist in the future. You realize your immortality. But the body, mind, life are only instruments given to you for one particular life. Once that life is over, these instruments are dissolved and then you take rebirth and take new body, new life, new mind, which may have absolutely nothing to do with the previous one. In one life you may be tall, another life you may be short. And one life you may be born in South America, another life you may be born in Siberia. There is absolutely no guarantee of what. But as the soul develops also a certain will and a purpose of its own. When it is sufficiently well developed, it can choose conditions for its next life. Okay? So that is what Shri Krishna is going to tell Arjuna. Don't be the normal man who is identified with body, mind, life and subject to sorrow and pleasure and pain and suffering. Rise above and do the bidding that is given to you by the divine.
Is there always a progress from life to life?
Yes, it may be very, very slow, but there is. Because when the soul comes out, it has a fast review of one's life. And this is one of the characteristics of when you come out of your body, there are enough research has been done nowadays in near-death experience, and there are about 10 to 15 things that happen to everybody, but not all those things happen. One of them is you see your own body lying there. You are outside and you see your own body lying there. The other is you enter into a space of absolute calm and peace. That's the second thing. That is universal. Then you feel yourself plummeting through a tunnel. Then the other thing is you also review your own life and you see whether there is anything that you would have liked to change. And this is very interesting because this review of life can happen even a little before death. On the point of death also this review can happen. It's very interesting. We are going a little out of the text, but this is very interesting. I'll give you an example of what happened in Pondicherry. The person to whom it happened does not know this principle, but I could understand from what she is saying. Okay, they used to live on the seashore, on the Kurchikupam area, and when did that tsunami happen? In that huge tsunami in Indonesia, when 9 years ago.
2007.
Huh?
7.
2007. Okay, so that time this wave, it came right up to Pondicherry. In fact, the waves came into Kurchikupam, and reportedly there were about 100 people who were affected. I think they died. Many of them died.
Yes, many of them.
But this lady, she was also there, she and her husband, and the water was rising, and she doesn't know swimming. She went to the first floor, but even there the water is rising. She had the experience of reviewing her own life. And she is saying, is there anything that I would have liked to have changed in my life? That's nothing but a review. Okay? But she doesn't know that this happens to everybody who is going out of the body. So this happened to her even before she is going out of the body. So this is one of the things that happens is a review, and there is naturally the consequence is a small progress. Not a very big one, but it's a small progress.
Thank
So
you.
it does happen, yes, there is a progress. But that progress is so slow that they say that to come to the human level, to take a human birth, it takes about 100,000 lives. 1 lakh.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah, 1 lakh of lives.
1 lakh to come to the human level.
Yes, a human level. Okay. That's why Shankara in one of his works he says that Narajanma Durlabha. That means the birth in a man's consciousness is not easy. It's very difficult. So it can come only after 100,000. Before that, you may have been an animal, you may have been lower plant animals, and the consciousness is going on evolving from the lower forms to the higher forms until finally you are ready for a human life. But even the human life sometimes is not a very developed consciousness. It can be, there can be infant mortality. That's one thing that is possible. Then also there can be an undeveloped state. Okay, we know many are undeveloped states. Okay, almost like an animal. That also can happen.
So that means birth after birth.
Yeah,
again.
that's right. You have to take again one more birth, until you are able to. The soul is able to tolerate the human condition. It's not. Okay, so now let's read
Thank you.
So,
Yes.
So Srimad has described the sattva, rajas, tamas conditions, and he has told us what in the previous para. Now, I'll read the whole para first. But there comes also a stage in which the mind recoils from the whole problem and, dissatisfied with the solutions given by the threefold mode of nature, Traigunya, seeks for some higher solution outside of it or else above it. It looks for an escape either into something which is outside and void of all qualities and therefore of all activity, or in something which is superior to the three qualities and master of them and therefore at once capable of action and unaffected, undominated by its own action in the nirguna or the trigunatita. It aspires to an absolute peace, an unconditioned existence, or to a dominant calm and superior existence. The natural movement of the former attitude is towards the renunciation of the world, sannyasa, of the latter towards superiority to the claims of the lower nature and its whirl of actions and reactions, and its principle of is equality and the inner renunciation of passion and desire. The former is the first impulse of Arjuna, recoiling from the calamitous culmination of all his heroic activity in the great cataclysm of battle and massacre, Kurukshetra. Losing his whole past principle of action, inaction, and the rejection of life and its claims seemed to him the only issue. But it is to an inner superiority and not to the physical renunciation of life and action that he is called by the voice of the divine teacher. So, we'll go into a little detail. You remember Arjuna's, when he tells he is full of vigor and he is full of ready for battle because he is a Kshatriya. He enjoys the challenge of a battle. So they use the word holiday of a fight for a very heroic one who enjoys the challenge of war. It's a holiday for him. He enjoys what he's doing. Okay, so he goes with that attitude and tells Sri Krishna, please place my chariot between the two enemies so that I can see whom I have to fight. And then Sri Krishna takes the chariot, places it in between the two armies, and this is also interesting. Not like modern warfare. In the ancient days, at least in India, to a certain extent in other countries also, war was a very regulated activity. At sunrise, a bugle is to be blown and the war starts. Then you start fighting, not helter-skelter throughout the night or anything. And after sunset, a bugle is blown again and the war has to end. No more killing. It is absolutely regulated. Modern warfare is not like that. And also, it is a battle between the Kshatriyas on both sides. The normal people are not involved in it. Nowadays, it's not like that. Everybody has to undergo conscription. They have to get military training in most of the countries. Not in India, no, because there are enough poor people who want to join the army, so there is no conscription in India. And we are 1.4 billion people, so there is no shortage of volunteers. But incidentally, I am going a little out, but it's interesting news that in China, they have a huge army. But the army is not willing to fight. Their training is quite different. Okay? In India, the army is trained very well to fight for your country. And your role is to protect your country. So they are given a very detailed psychological grinding. They are made to understand that life is nothing. The life of the nation is more important. So in China, it's not like that. They are unwilling to fight. This is the latest thing that comes. So they are forced to fight. And if they don't, they want to, then they are punished. That's beside the point. But what I'm saying is that war was a very well regulated thing. And even in Mahabharata, there are incidents where once the bugle is blown for the war to end, the enemies would meet and talk like friends. Okay? So it was altogether a different thing. It's a war without hatred and without fighting for a principle. That is how it used to be. So, Sri Krishna his chariot is taken, and what does he see? He sees in front of him his great-grandfather, his uncles, his cousins, his best friends. All these are arrayed against him. His own half-brother, Karna. So he says, impossible. How can I kill my own people? I refuse to fight. And his reaction is one, that's why tamas has been described. His hands start trembling, the bow falls from his hand, he feels feverish, his body is trembling, and he sits down and says, I will not fight. This is the reaction of the normal man who is subject to pity and not compassion, but weakness of the vital. You can't bear to see something violent. This is something that happens to many people. And when they see blood, they faint. They can't bear the sight of something horrific. So this is Arjuna's condition. So, he thinks he is doing something very nice. He is being very virtuous. He is refusing to kill. And Shri Krishna tells him, this is no heroism. This is a weakness in your nerves. This is a bodily weakness and a vital weakness. Shake off this cowardice and stand up and fight and do what the divine is telling you to do. So this is the advice. But you can't do that when you're identified with your body, mind, life in ignorance. Your consciousness has to rise to a level where you are not affected by the sattva, rajas, tamas. Not affected by the impacts of the world on your body, your vital and your mind. So that's what Gita is all about. Rise to another level of consciousness and obey the dictates of the Lord and not your own mind or your own vital. That is the gist of the Gita. So, we read each sentence now. Okay, all right. But there comes also a stage in which the mind recoils from the whole problem and, dissatisfied with the solutions given by the threefold mode of nature, Traigunya, seeks for some higher solution outside of it or else above it. So, the normal man, he adjusts himself to whether he is tamasic. Okay, he meets the impacts of the world with a little bit of laziness and he accepts. Okay, I just read out the relevant portion. Dominated by tamas, man does not so much meet the rush and shock of the world energies whirling about him and converging upon him as he succumbs to them. He becomes a victim of the forces coming in. Okay, if he is insulted, he is hurt, but he keeps quiet, doesn't do anything, succumbs. He is overborne by them. If suffering comes, he doesn't try to fight it. He just succumbs. Okay, afflicted, subjected, or at the most helped by the other qualities, the tamasic man seeks only somehow to survive, to subsist so long as he may, to shelter himself in the fortress of his established routine of thought and action. Okay, so just to protect himself. But the rajasic man, the one who lives in the vital, will face the problems of the world and try to conquer them. Okay, Arjuna is not doing that. Okay, Arjuna is succumbing to the. So I read that portion also because it's relevant. Dominated by rajas. So what is rajas? It's a characteristic of the vital. Energy, movement, power, desire, wanting to achieve things. Okay, you're driven by ambition, even that also is part of the rajas.
And how is he tamasic?
He is not tamasic. Who?
Arjuna.
Oh, he at this particular time, he is affected by what he sees.
Okay.
He is normally a Kshatriya and his dharma is he should stand up and fight. But when he sees this, what he has to face, he is now living in the vital also can get depressed. No? And that's what is happening. The tamasic man, the tamasic rajasic man, he was rajasic. And by the way, you don't need to be only one type throughout your life. One day you can be tamasic, one day you can be rajasic. Okay, and a touch of the sattva also can come in sometimes. This is everybody's experience. Sometimes you feel lazy. You are tamasic. Sometimes you feel full of energy. Okay, so it's not that it is a permanent state. It depends on the day, circumstances and everything. So, then, dominated by rajas, man flings himself into the battle and attempts to use the struggle of forces for his own egoistic benefit. I won't read further, but this is what he tries. He tries to slay, conquer, dominate, enjoy. This is the principle of the rajas. So this is what has happened to him. He is fallen a prey to the impacts of the physical world. He refuses to fight. Okay, so now Srimad is saying, there comes also a stage in which the mind recoils from the whole problem. Okay, the problem of what to do. Sometimes when you are faced with something, you are either a weak reaction or a strong reaction. At every level, there are positives and negatives. So, to get rid of the problem, the ascetic says, I don't want to have anything to do with the world. He recoils from the world. That's what Srimad is saying. The mind recoils from the whole problem and dissatisfied with the solutions given by the threefold mode of nature. Threefold mode of nature, your body, mind, life, or your tamas, rajas, sattva. They can't give you a satisfactory solution to your problem. And what is your problem? The sufferings of the world, the impacts of the world, all these are always not giving you happiness. No? So, seeks for some higher solution outside of it or else above it. So, the one who is not satisfied with the normal conditions in life tries to find a solution outside the normal life. Goes away to the mountain or the cave, runs away from the problem, or else above it. This is a spiritual solution. Above, you go to the self. You rise and go to the self. Okay? It looks for an escape either into something which is outside and void of all qualities and therefore of all activity, or in something which is superior to the three qualities and master of them, and therefore at once capable of action and unaffected, undominated by its own action in the nirguna or the trigunatita. So even when you are seeking for a spiritual solution, there are two things. One is, I just escape from the problems of the body, mind, life. I am not suffering anymore. Your consciousness rises to the self and you are a witness and you are calm and peaceful. No power. You don't do anything. You have escaped from the body, mind, life. The body, mind, life will continue to have pleasure, pain, suffering, everything will be there. But you are not affected because the dislocation between the soul and the body, mind, life has occurred. So it's like someone else is suffering. I am not suffering. Okay. There is an interesting sonnet of Sri Aurobindo, the ego. Okay, so Sri Aurobindo has written it in a very humorous way, but that is the truth of the experience. The man says he is free. Okay, he says, I am free and I am very peaceful. Then he starts swearing when his dinner is not ready. Then Sri Aurobindo asks him, that's the way it is put in the sonnet. Are you sure that you are free? Then why are you shouting? He says, I am not shouting. It's the stomach that is shouting. It's put in a very ironical way, but that's exactly what happens. You are quite satisfied. The body, mind, life will go on with its old actions and old habits, but you are free. I am free. I am not shouting for dinner. It's the body, mind, life that is doing that. So, this is the first spiritual solution. It's a spiritual solution.
But that's the ego still.
No, it's not the ego. It's the self.
Ah, okay.
This ego is still down there.
Yeah, okay.
But you have dislocated yourself.
But the stomach is shouting? The stomach is shouting?
Yes, that's right. The stomach fights and the mind
he's looking at it from above.
You are just watching from above. That's the condition of the self. In Buddhism, you call it nirvana. Okay? But Sri Aurobindo says, you may not be satisfied with that. You may want to change even the lower. So these are the two things that he's talking about. Okay? First is trigunatita. Seeks for some higher solution outside of it or else above it. It looks for an escape either into something which is outside and void of all qualities and therefore of all activity, or in something which is superior to the three qualities and master of them. So the first is you are escaping. You have no power of the body, mind, life. You are at peace. You are satisfied. That's a normal liberation. But you may not be satisfied with that. You want to be master of your body, mind, life. You are not satisfied only with peace and calm. That's the second one. And that's what Sri Aurobindo wants. Sri Aurobindo wants you to be master of your body, mind, life. Not just a negative peace and calm. It should be a positive peace, ananda and power. That should be there. Okay. Undominated by its own action in the nirguna or the triguna. Okay. So there are two solutions, spiritual solutions. It aspires to an absolute peace and unconditioned existence. Now, what is the unconditioned existence? When you are subject to your body, mind, life and you are identified with your body, mind, life at the level 1, you are conditioned. Your soul is chains are put on it. You are conditioned by the body, you are conditioned by the vital, you are conditioned by the mind. You are imprisoned. But unconditioned existence, you are free of the prison of body, vital and mind. You are out. Your consciousness is out. You are just watching your body, mind, life from above. It's a consciousness that's the main thing, and that goes up. You can equate in a certain sense consciousness and soul. You can say that they are the same. There are some philosophies which say no, soul has a consciousness. But you can say also that soul is consciousness. Okay. It depends on how you look at it. So unconditioned existence, you are in the nirguna. But Srivanda wants you to be also in the saguna. You must have capacity, even in the physical world, you must be master of yourself. Okay, so or to a dominant calm and superior existence. So first is the unconditioned existence, only a negative peace. And the second is a dominant calm and superior existence. You have power also over the lower. The power can start even at level 2 and it can become absolutely perfect at level 3 in the supermind. But supermind is not easy to reach. So a little bit of power can come even in the spiritual planes of consciousness.
Have many in the ashram reached at least the supermind?
Not many perhaps, but
a few.
Narada is, no, not Narada, sorry.
Nolini?
Nolinida is supposed to have lived mostly in the overmind plane, and sometimes it is reported even in the supermind. I don't know of anybody else who has done that. The records don't show it. But Nolinida, yes. Some have reached very high levels of consciousness, but the records are not very clear. 2 or 3 of them, definitely. Okay. Many have experienced the self. The unconditioned existence, yes, many. There is a very interesting incident. Narad is asking, what is the Brahman consciousness to Srivanda? So Srivanda explains to him what the Brahman consciousness is. Okay, it's a consciousness which is absolutely unconditioned. You are not identified with your body, mind, life. You are in a condition where you are free. There is peace. You are not subject to the sufferings and the pleasures and all the impacts of the world. You are absolutely free and immutable. You are in a silence of action and thought and emotion. Nothing. You are absolutely above all these things. So then he asks Srivanda, can you whisper to me the name of some sadhaks who have reached this condition? And says, no. But later on we came to know, because the records are there in the archives. Okay, there used to be a gentleman. His name was Manodhar. And what was his work? He used to cut. He used to cut hair in the ashram. So we think that only those who are doing very great work and all, okay, they are. But no, not like that at all. There was another gentleman also. His name was Gangadharan. And his work was looking after the sanitary workers in the ashram. And he also reached a very high plane of consciousness, because the records are there. In one of the magazines, his experiences were given. So yes, there have been half a dozen people who have experienced all these things. But some of the names are very clear, but not all. Take for instance, Dilip Kumar Roy, who was so, Srivanda knew him in ancient Greece. And so all these long letters are all addressed to him. But he couldn't accept the mother, he had to go away.
Yeah.
Look at Amal. Okay? Too active in the mind. Too active. He had the experience of the psychic, but not the self. I think I've told you once, I asked him, I said, Amal, have you been able to silence your mind? And he says, he used to stammer a little bit, but not when he's reading poetry. When he's reading poetry, no stammering at all. Absolutely perfect reading. But otherwise he used to stammer. He has written a beautiful poem also on his stammer. He compares his stammering to the flickering of stars. Beautiful. Okay, so anyway, he was a poet. So I asked him, have you silenced your mind? He says, no, I have not silenced my mind, but I can silence other people's minds. So I said, how? He says, by argument. So even Amal, who is such a supposed to be a great yogi, he could not silence his mind. But he had psychic opening. That he had. Let's get back to our text.
Good.
So, the one who is Trigunatita, that means who loses his identification with body, mind, life, becomes superior to body, mind, life, enters into a condition, spiritual condition, which can be twofold. One, a negative peace. Peace without power and maybe also without ananda. Maybe a very mild happiness, but not rapturous ananda may not be there. Okay? That may not be there. But it is enough. They are more than satisfied with this. I am free. I am liberated. I am not a prisoner anymore of my body, mind, life. So that is one experience. But the other experience which Srivada is saying, you want to be master, not merely a powerless peace. It should be a condition where you are master and not only a negative peace. So that's what is being described here. Okay? So, the natural movement of the former attitude is towards a renunciation of the world, sannyasa. If you want only liberation, you renounce the world. You don't want the world. You give up interest in food, in clothes, in friendships, in money, all these things you give up. Neither wife, nor child, nor anything. You give up the whole thing. This is a sannyasa. Of the latter, towards a superiority to the claims of the lower nature. The one who wants to be master, he also resorts to sannyasa, renunciation. But what? Renunciation of the world? No. Renunciation of the desire in the mind, attachment and ego. He cuts the link with desire, with attachment and ego inside him. So he continues to live in the physical world and is master of them. So that's what Srivada wants. So it can be twofold. Both are spiritual. One is a lesser spiritual condition, the other is a more powerful spiritual condition. That's what he is discussing in the para. Okay? So, the former is the first impulse of Arjuna, recoiling from the calamitous culmination of all his heroic activity in the great cataclysm of battle and massacre, Kurukshetra. So Arjuna, who is identified with his body, mind, life, he wants to renounce his work. That's the normal reaction of man when he is disgusted with the imperfections and the problems in the world. He wants to give up. The same they are saying he should take the solution of the spiritual solution. He should go out of his body, mind, life and obey the divine. Okay? So, losing his whole past principle of action. What is Arjuna's whole past principle of action? Kshatriya, warriorhood, bravery. Okay? Inaction and the rejection of life and its claims seem to him the only issue. Renounce all these things. Don't face all these problems. If I don't have to battle, I just withdraw from it. So, but it is to an inner superiority and not to the physical renunciation of life and action that he is called by the voice of the divine teacher. That's why in the Gita there is a distinction between tyaga and sannyasa. Sannyasa is giving up the physical world. Tyaga is the cutting of the link. I may be mixing up the two words, but they mean the same thing. But one is a giving up of the physical world, and the other is a renunciation of inner renunciation, cutting the link in your own being with desire, ego, and attachment. Then you are free. You don't need to leave the world. That's a Gita solution also. That's what he is saying in the para. We can read the next one?
Yes.
We have got 2 more paras for the chapter. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, the Rajasic man, who governs his rajasic action by a high sattvic ideal. So to begin with, a Kshatriya is a high sattvic ideal. He lives in the vital that's the characteristic of the Kshatriya. He faces the challenges of life and meets them bravely. Okay? There. Is the Rajasic man who governs his Rajas action by high sattvic ideal. It's a combination of Rajas and Sattva. He advances to this gigantic struggle, to this Kurukshetra, with the full acceptance of the joy of battle, as to a holiday of fight, but with a proud confidence in the righteousness of his cause. This is his first, his approach to his duty of war. He advances in his rapid chariot, tearing the hearts of his enemies with the victorious clamor of his war conch. So, even the conch that they blow, okay, all these people, they had conches, and before starting the war, these conches are blown and the war starts. And each one, there is a name to each one's war conch. Each one, all of them. Righteous, because it becomes symbolic. The conch that each one is blowing has a name. He advances in his rapid chariot, tearing the hearts of his enemies with the victorious clamor of his war conch. For he wishes to look upon all these kings of men who have come here to champion against him the cause of unrighteousness and establish as a rule of life the disregard of law, justice and truth, which they would replace by the rule of a selfish and arrogant egoism. They are the Kauravas who are ranged against him. Okay? When this confidence is shattered within him, when he is smitten down from his customary attitude and mental basis of life, it is by the uprush of the tamasic quality into the rajasic man, inducing a recoil of astonishment, grief, horror, dismay, dejection, bewilderment of the mind, and the war of reason. Reason starts war within him. Should I do my Kshatriya duty or should I not? The war of reason against itself. A collapse towards the principle of ignorance and inertia. So from his rajasic quality, he is falling down into the tamasic quality. As a result, he turns towards renunciation. So, better not to be a Kshatriya. Not under these conditions anyway. Better the life of the mendicant, living upon alms, than this dharma of the Kshatriya, this battle and action, culminating in indiscriminating massacre, this principle of mastery and glory and power, which can only be won by destruction and bloodshed, this conquest of blood-stained enjoyments, this vindication of justice and right by the means which contradicts all righteousness, and this affirmation of the social law by a war which destroys in its process and result all that constitutes society. So, this war is going to destroy society and it will have many, many pernicious results. So, I won't fight. This is his condition. He is a man of rajasic quality, but he falls when he sees the challenge he has to face. This happens with everybody at some time or other. Your values there's a confusion in the mind and you don't know whether to do or not to do. It challenges all your values. You are leading a very, 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 very happy life. Family life is very, very pleasant and very nice. Suddenly, someone very dear to you passes away. I have seen many, many examples in life. Okay. Very recently, one young girl lost her grandmother or grandfather, I don't remember now. Was very highly disturbed. Completely didn't know what to do for several days. Completely gone. Another man, he was also having a successful business in Pondicherry itself, and he gave a loan to a friend, quite a large sum. That man cheated him. He didn't give him the money. Completely broke down. So these are the problems that can arrive in life. All your established rules of life, happiness, get shattered at one blow. Then you are confused, just like Arjuna. Okay, so this is what he is saying. So now Sri Krishna has to advise him and tell him that don't think this is a virtuous action. He thinks that he is doing something good. He is recoiling from a crime. How can I kill my own people? But he tells him that this is cowardice. This is not, because you have a function in the world and you are running away from your function. Face the challenges and do what has been told to you, not by your mind, but by the divine. Now he is discussing the sannyasa. Okay. Sannyasa is a renunciation of life and action and of the threefold modes of nature. But it has to be approached through one or other of the three qualities. You can give up the world, but it can be tamasic, it can be rajasic, it can be sattvic. He will explain how. Okay. The impulse may be tamasic. You may want to run away from the physical world, but it could be tamasic. A feeling of impotence, fear, aversion, disgust, horror of the world and life. You see all these things and you feel yourself to be powerless to do anything. You withdraw. I won't take part in life's novel activities. I'm a defeatist. I am defeated by the circumstances. This is the tamasic withdrawal. Fear, aversion, disgust, horror of the world and life. Or it may be a rajasic quality tending towards tamas. So it's a combination of rajas and tamas. An impulse of weariness of the struggle, grief, disappointment, refusal to accept any longer this vain turmoil of activity with its pains and eternal discontent. This also you will see very often in life, if you are very observant, that there are some people who plunge into an activity with great vigor. But in a very short time they realize that this is not there and they give up. Okay? They fail. I have a very interesting example of this one. There was a gentleman at the end of our holiday in school. The school ends in end of October. November 1 month we practice for the 2nd December and 1st December, and then the holidays go up to the 15th of December. So during those holidays, the children go out for picnics and for outings. So sometimes they go walking right up to Jinji, which is about 60-70 kilometers from here. They go walking. It takes 2 nights. So this boy was told that we are going walking. Will you come? Oh yes, I'll do it. Great enthusiasm, rajasic quality. He goes up to Jipmar and he realizes that he can't do it. Collapses and says, I now realize it's one big mistake. So there's a tamasic quality. So this is what can often happen in life. Okay, so the impulse may be tamasic, feeling of impotence, fear, aversion, disgust, horror of the world and life. Or it may be a rajasic quality tending towards tamas, an impulse of weariness of the struggle, grief, disappointment, refusal to accept any longer this vain turmoil of activity with its pains and its eternal discontent. You get discouraged and you give up the effort. Okay. I remember in one activity when mother said, once you start something, okay, you must not give it up. It's a defeat of the will, she wrote. It was a particular department, okay. It was now that all those people are not concerned, they are all gone, I can speak of it. It was the ashram photography, okay. And we used to hold exhibitions from all over the world. 1,000 pictures used to come 1,000 pictures from all over the world. And we used to have an exhibition. We used to select only 100 pictures and exhibit them in the exhibition hall, the best ones. And 90% used to get rejected. Okay, so, but it became more and more difficult because all the pictures had to be sent back. The postage started becoming very heavy. The packing became very heavy. Money was short. So it was decided that better stop the activity. Mother wrote back and said, it's a defeat of the will. You should have continued. Okay. The same thing happened with Mother India. Mother India also, in the beginning, it was being supported by the society. Amal was the editor, and he started in Bombay. But when it came here, somehow the situation changed, and he was told to pay the bill to the press. So he wrote to Mother, and Mother said, you must pay the bill. She said, you must pay. But he was, we all know that he was a very vitalistic man, very vital man. He was intellectual, but very vital also. He took up the challenge and he started paying the ashram bills. So sometimes you meet with the Rajasic quality, but sometimes you don't. You are defeated. That's what is being described. Or the impulse may be that of Rajas tending towards Sattva. Okay? So, the impulse to arrive at something superior to anything life can give, to conquer a higher state, to trample down life itself under the feet of an inner strength which seeks to break all bonds and transcend all limits. Or it may be sattvic, an intellectual perception of the vanity of life and the absence of any real goal or justification for this ever cycling world existence, or else a spiritual perception of the timeless, infinite, silent, nameless and formless peace beyond. So all these things are possible. You can be defeatist, you can take up the challenge and face life and try to master them, or you can understand that the physical world is full of suffering and pain, and you understand it and try to go above it, try to stand. Stoicism, you try to bear the shocks of life and go above. Or the spiritual solution. The last one is the spiritual solution. You go outside your body, mind, life, and you are not affected by the conditions in the physical world. You go to an unconditioned existence. Okay, so the recoil of Arjuna is a tamasic recoil from action of the sattva rajasic man. So he began life as a sattva rajasic man, the kshatriya, but he got depressed and he fell into the tamasic quality. That's what Shabda is saying. The teacher may confirm it in his direction, using it as a dark entry to the purity and peace of the ascetic life. So what Shabda is saying here, the teacher may confirm it in its direction. He can say to somebody, yes, you are right. Okay? You are right. Go away from the physical world. That also is possible. It depends on the man. But not someone who is starting with the Kshatriya attitude. Okay, so the teacher may confirm it, may agree with it in its direction, using it as a dark entry to the purity and peace of the ascetic life. Or he may purify it at once and raise it towards the rare altitudes of the sattvic tendency of renunciation. So you can also renounce, but not in a disturbed condition. In fact, he does neither. Sri Krishna does neither. He tells him to rise, and he doesn't say that, oh, you are doing very good, you are being very moral. No, he doesn't say that. He says, get up and rise to a higher level of consciousness. He discourages the tamasic recoil and the tendency to renunciation and enjoins the continuance of action and even of the same fierce and terrible action. But he points the disciple towards another, an inner renunciation, not the renunciation of physical renunciation of the world, inner renunciation, which is the real issue from his crisis and the way towards the soul's superiority to the world nature, and yet its calm and self-possessed action in the world. Cut the link with the world in yourself. Get rid of desire, ego, attachment, and continue to act in the physical world without being affected by the world. Not a physical asceticism, but an inner ascesis is the teaching of the Gita. Don't run away from the physical world, but cut the links in the mind which will make you suffer or enjoy. Get rid of all this. Cut the link in the mind. Make the dislocation from the physical world in yourself. Don't be affected by these things. And that can be done only by getting rid of attachment, ego and desire. So that is what Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna. But Arjuna accepts, that's later. Arjuna accepts, says, you are my guru and I accept you. But tell me, how can this be possible? What is the nature of a man who has been able to make this and become Trigunatita? How does he speak? How does he act? Is there any sign by which I can know that this man is in a higher consciousness? So Shri Krishna answers, no, there is no such sign outwardly, but the signs are all inwards. And then the whole Gita tells you about samatha, about dhyana yoga, about bhakti yoga, about karma yoga. So that is the Gita. 800 verses as a small portion in the Mahabharata. And all this is taking place in the middle of the battlefield. If you read the Gita from beginning to end non-stop, it takes 2 hours. Okay. Gita Parayana is done all over India. They do continuously reading. They do it sometimes in relays. Okay. Somebody will read one chapter, somebody else will read another chapter. So it happens very often. So it takes 2 hours.
But they do Savitri also.
Yeah, they do that
Like
for Savitri also. That's right.
And that we should have a discussion one day.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you, Ranga.
okay.
Namaste all.